Welcome to Rotary and Serving Our Community. My name is Wade Nomura, and we are going to take a look at part of the international scope of Rotary itself. We're going to take a trip to Korea and see what they have there in Rotary. And with us today, I have two special guests, past district governors, both of them, Jane and Jack McClenahan. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Wade. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us. Jane, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, right now I'm really completely retired from the money-making area and almost completely employed by Rotary. I'm the club secretary right now, but also the bookkeeper. And that's club level. At district level, I'm doing a lot of work right now getting incoming district governors ready at the Zone Institute.
Oh, great.
And that's taking a lot of my time right now.
So but not quite the money-making venture you anticipated that would be.
Oh, no.
Great.
But a lot of fun. We have really great people to work with, so it's not really like working, it's just time-consuming.
Very true.
Yeah.
And Jack, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I realized at our club meeting the other day when we were doing anniversaries and so forth that my anniversary as a Rotarian came up, and it's now 38 years since I joined the Rotary Club of Santa Paula back in 1978. So it's been a major part of our life and so forth. But I am still working, too, in an office.
That's true. And you're actually also right now serving as president of your club too. So
I am, the second time. It's the first time we've had to retread, so to speak, an old president. And it's unfortunate. But people are busy, they have complicated lives.
True, very true.
So I decided to step in.
And both of you are quite unique because you're the only husband and wife team that's ever served as district governors for this district.
In this district,
right.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Congratulations for that. Jack, tell us how you got involved with Rotary.
Well, it was through doing PR work. I was working for Thomas Aquinas College. It was in a new location up in what had been a horse pasture outside of Santa Paula. Some of the regents suggest that we have the founder of the college go around and speak to Rotary clubs to build some awareness. And so the first one I did was the Rotary Club of Santa Paula. The president of the club, Al Guilleen, who's still a member, said, "Have you ever been to a Rotary Club meeting?" And I said, "No, I hadn't." He said, "Well, come down and see what it's like." And at the end of the meeting, he said, "How'd you like the meeting?" I said, "I thought it was great. I thought it was a lot of fun." And a month later, I was a member of the Rotary Club of Santa Paula. So that was how that was.
That fast.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And how about you, Jane?
I was one of the first women invited into Rotary right as soon as they said that women could come in. They had me picked out right away.
Wow, okay, great.
And have been in the club that long and have worked hard and have had a lot of fun.
So you're both in the same club, right? Ojai West.
Now we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
back then you were not.
No, I've been in the same club all along, but when I became club president, if he knew it was good for him, he would transfer into our club, and he did.
Okay, a little bit of prompting there. So tell us a little bit about Rotary in general and what the interest or the connection is with you going to these international countries. Specifically, not just Korea, but you've been around to quite a few different areas.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, we've traveled to a number of the conventions, including traveling with you and Roxanne to England and New Orleans and Montreal and so forth. Yeah. And it was when I was secretary of Rotary Club of Ojai, the older Ojai Rotary Club, that I was, through a series of coincidences, was asked to represent the club at the International Convention in Munich in 1987. And so that kind of got us hooked on the idea of going to conventions. And so we don't go every year, but we've been to 15.
Wow, that's great.
Have added up. And they're all tremendous if you want a sense of the internationality of Rotary and meeting people from all over the world. And I've always loved all the cultural aspects of Rotary. Yeah, there's something different in Rotary for everybody, and I like that part.
Very true. This trip that we're going to be traveling with you on right now through Korea, how long was that trip actually, and how did that fit with an RI international convention?
Well, it ended up being 30 days in Korea, or 35 days almost. It started just that we were planning to go to the convention in Seoul, definitely, because our district, as you know, for 20 years now, has had a sister district relationship with District 3720 in the southern part of South Korea. And we've done projects together as illustrated by this project that Jane would probably talk about with these wheelchair taxis for severely disabled children. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, let's jump into the pictures here. I think
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
one in there, don't you?
Yeah, there
That
is
one?
one. There's a
Yeah,
picture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's jump on into it then. So
This is kind of a wonderful story because it just started out with the district governor in Korea. We were, we call them sister districts. And we met up and we wanted to do something, and he had a passion for children that are disabled and wanted to make their lives easier. So we went to an institution, and then the institution was beautiful, and they had everything a kid could want. But the problem is that they were tied to a wheelchair, and they were like being in prison. They could never, ever leave. And so we sat and talked about it. We went over to Hyundai and asked them if they could design a vehicle that we could put these wheelchairs in. And they could, they did. And so then we were able to let these children and a caretaker go to the temple or go to the park or go to a museum, where before they never were able to, or go home. They could go to their house. They couldn't leave before. So we did 3 of them through a world grant, and then 5 years later, we went back and we went to where this picture was taken, and they had this wheelchair taxi gear. And the community, it was so successful that they have 37 wheelchair taxis
wow,
now.
that's great.
So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful story.
Right.
Yeah, that's in
Yeah.
the city of Kimhae, but it has about 500,000 people.
Good.
So there was a need
Yeah,
that hadn't
definitely
been
so.
met.
Thank you.
So it's really great.
So we'll continue on through the slide presentation then.
Well, what happened was that we were headed for the convention. We knew we were going to go there, but it occurred to me and my brother, district governor from 2013-14, that we could use his hotel as our base for a pre-convention tour for our district. And so we had 41 people participating in that. But then in addition to that, Jane and I went over 2 weeks earlier than that in order to do some work for Ojai Valley School, because Ojai Valley School has a lot of international students from many different countries, and including maybe 250 Korean alumni. And so we went over and we did some social events. And so there's a slide there of a downtown scene, and that's in the well-known district of Gangnam, like in Gangnam Style, that Psy raps. And you can see what a modern, up-to-date, prosperous kind of city it is. There's a second slide there that's actually on the other side of the river, because Seoul, like Los Angeles, has several high-rise downtown business districts. Some are very modern, some have the traditional old crowded markets and the kind of thing you expect to see in Asia. And so, and then there's a slide that has directly to do with Ojai Valley School, which is a picture there at the Jogyesa Temple with the flags and the banners, because this was the week of Buddha's birthday. And so they were preparing for that. And so Jane is in the picture there with Shelley Hermes, whose father was a longtime president of Ojai Valley School. And so she helped us, and she lives over there now in Seoul.
Okay.
So she helped us organize our event. So we did some sightseeing with her as well as preparing for our events, and got to know Seoul better. There's a picture there of some inflated panda bears,
Right.
and that's outside the art museum there, where they were doing an exhibit on, what was that? What's the name of that? DreamWorks. Yeah, it had included Shrek and all the DreamWorks characters and so forth. And then the next picture, I think, in the order is us out on one of the streets of Seoul, where there's a banner advertising the Rotary convention, and so it has the convention logo. And so that was, our ultimate purpose when we got past these others. If you notice on that picture, just to the edge, there's a wall. Behind the wall is one of the several royal palaces, historical royal palaces that are in Seoul. It's a wonderful place to visit, by the way, Seoul.
Yeah.
And so you see the guards in their traditional costumes, and they do a changing of the guard. And so it includes those in the soldier costumes and then also those who are dressed as the court musicians. And they play those unusual historical instruments, and it's quite a scene and quite a sound.
A lot of vivid colors I see in
It's
both
real
these
pretty,
pictures.
yeah.
It's amazing.
So, and then there's a picture of, that looks like, well, it's outdoors, and it's a kind of an outdoor scene. That is one of the two larger palaces, and this is the one that's really kind of a compound. It's a large enclosed area with many, many buildings and a kind of garden setting, and that's the Queen's Palace. And it's where the Queen lived with all of her retainers and servants and musicians and cooks and so forth. And so, so we went through there, and in a place like that, the next slide has the guide who led us through. You need a guide, and so they were very helpful. You need a guide to explain things like the immediately following picture, which has this beautiful building within the complex, and it has these odd figures on the top, and so you want to know what those are.
Now
And
the
so
guide spoke English, I presume.
Oh, very well.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, she had a good sense of humor in English too.
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah. So that we really got to know the city. It's one of the places that we enjoyed going back to was right in central Seoul, where, and this is for people who are following the development of the Los Angeles River in LA, right in the center of downtown, they have a stream that was once completely paved over. And at some point they decided to restore that. And so they dug it out, hauled off the pavement, and created, and let the water flow again, and created a kind of, a little bit of nature right in the city. And
I see.
so
So that's the picture here. Then it shows with the water actually flowing. So
that's right.
beautiful
Yeah,
landscape.
that's right.
I like to see that. Yeah.
And at night,
Nice.
because this was,
This
again, it was
Buddha's
Buddha's birthday week, and one of the
Okay.
events was what they call the
Lantern.
Lotus Lantern Festival. And so next there's a picture of some of these are life-size kind
Lanterns.
of sculptures, but they are lanterns.
Oh, they have
And
light.
so they're made with a metal frame covered with the decorated paper, and these sort of look like they're actually floating on the river, but they're on platforms in the river. So
You
it's-
walk up and down the river.
it's the way that
stay
they
put.
use that downtown section. So we were there in Seoul for about 2 weeks, and then we moved on farther south in Korea to a place called Gyeongju, which is a World Heritage Site, or it has several World Heritage Sites. And so we spent a few days there, and that was kind of partly relaxation and R&R for us before we went into our tour with our tour group. Yeah, you know, I think something Jane would like to talk about. There's a photo there of some kids on a carnival ride. Did we pass that?
Up here, that's in the park.
Yeah.
Right.
This was really kind of fun. It was at a park. It was a carnival type park, and we could see it from our hotel room. We could look down, and so we decided, what's kind of Disneyland looking at? Let's go over there. And it was a school day, and they brought all the children there, and they're all little, and they're all dressed in their uniforms, and they had their little backpacks. The one picture here, you can see all the backpacks just set up on the picnic tables.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then the kids were all lined up, and they go in little lines with one teacher in front and one teacher in back. And then because of their age, that every now and then they would be distracted maybe by something over here, and the little kids would start moving off of going over this way as one teacher's taken off that way. But they had these wonderful little carnival rides, and the kids were so happy. It was just really fun, and it was so safe. It was just a wonderful, wonderful experience being there and watching this whole thing happen. It was
It's
great.
generally true in our experience in South Korea. It's a very safe country, in spite of the scary news about the north and the threats and so forth. Actually, on the streets, the subway, and so forth. There's very little crime at all. If there is, if anything occurs, it gets right in the front pages because it's so unusual. And like those, the backpacks for the kids at the park there, they just set them all out and so forth with no concern that they're going to be bothered by anybody.
It happens in the coffee shop too, because I'm a coffee monster. You could sit down and you have your sweet roll in your coffee, and you see the teenage and the college kids there, and they sit there and they're talking, enjoying themselves, then they just get up and they leave. 45 minutes later, they come back. But when they left, their wallet is sitting there, the laptop is sitting there, the phone is over here, this whole place is just like this. And nobody will disturb it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very orderly country.
That's refreshing.
That is.
So that was kind of our little vacation in the middle of our trip.
Okay.
Because at this Bowman Lake, very beautiful place near the historic center. So then we went down, and I think the next picture is down at the Gyeongnam Visitors Bureau, and it's out in front of a souvenir shop. And those are our hosts.
Okay.
My past district governor pal, Yoon Young Ho, the owner of the hotel, and he also happens to be the chairman of the Tourism Association. And so they arranged now all the tour activities for our group, beginning with next picture, a tour there of Changwon. And even though, so we have two rose garden pictures. And the Changwon is an industrial city, an important industrial city, the 6th largest in Korea, but nonetheless it has beautiful gardens, there's beautiful landscaping, even some of the industrial park area is landscaped. And again, lots and lots of children out on
all lined up in their little uniforms.
Yeah, all in uniform too.
Now, Korea is known for its industrialization and its auto industry, its shipbuilding industry, and so forth. But they are trying to diversify and really develop Korean tourism. And so this being with our group and with the Tourism Association, you could see that all the different provinces of Korea are identifying the places of interest that are in their area and developing tourist facilities so that it's a nice place to visit and easy to navigate. So the first of those after the flower pictures is you can see some of our group walking uphill near the ocean. And so that is a marine park, and that's what that's all about. And there's lots of things to see there, but I can't go into all of them. The next one is the forest park. It's nearby, but you can see that it has the walkways that take you kind of into the scenery. And in the background on that one, you can see the city in the background. It's not that far from the apartments of the city. Oh, okay. And the next, I'm kind of looking at this, and you're one ahead of me here, to remind me, and because these are continuous here. This is like one bus trip. And so then from that, we went over to Masan to the art gallery of a very famous, world famous artist named Moon Shin. Sculptor, and so he was very avant-garde in the 20s and 30s. He was doing these amazing sculptures. Now, if you imagine yourself there and you turn around, you'll see the view from that museum, and it looks across the city of Masan, which is a port city and a shipbuilding city, toward. You can see in the distance their own version of the Golden Gate Bridge that crosses the entrance to the harbor. So that was a series of things that they did with us on one particular day. The next day we got in the bus and we headed north to a famous wetlands called Junam Wetlands, which is a very important bird sanctuary. And I think Jane took that picture there of the lotus, right? Out of the mud grows the lotus. And we were headed toward we spent the whole day actually in and around the city of Milyan. And one of the interesting things about that carried through the rest of the day was a visit to, you'll see there's a shrine, there's a slide of a shrine. And it looks like it's a religious shrine, but it's actually a shrine in honor of the man known as the warrior monk. Because during the Japanese occupation during the 1590s, they took hostages in some of the cities to keep them under control. And the monk negotiated the release of these 3,000 hostages and to have the Japanese withdrawal. And he's called the warrior monk because he also had a force of 600 highly trained monks who were ready to go after the Japanese if they didn't go for the diplomacy. And then from there, we went on an aerial tramway up into some mountains. The mountains there are very similar to our Coast Range, except that they get a lot more rain, and so they're much more wooded. But they're about the same height and so forth. So we went up to what they call Ice Valley and took the aerial tramway up to the top and enjoyed the view. Then we came back down to another historic village, because they have several of these villages that are maintained the way they were 100 years ago. And we visited this, let's see, what is it? It's a Confucian school. So it's a school that trained the leaders of the country in Confucian principles that you've heard a lot of over the years. And the woman in the front of that picture illustrates that we were, at every point of our tour, greeted by past district governors and their spouses from our sister district.
Oh,
and
nice.
so they hosted us, each one in their particular area. And so it added something you're simply not going to experience in any other circumstances but Rotary. And the picture after that has our longtime leader and the creator of this 20-year friendship, and that's Chung Sam-do, originally from Korea, and he's explaining or answering questions about it. Next to Chung Sam, there's a young woman who was our guide for the day. We also always had a guide who was familiar with that area, and she stayed with us to the next picture of this pavilion from the 1300s sitting up on a hilltop.
Wow.
And in the picture after that, where you can see the pavilion up close, you can see that it's not walled in, it's open to the air, and it's where the king or the nobles would sit up on that platform in a cool breeze overlooking the river, and they would listen to songs and listen to poets and so forth. And you'll notice that our guide, who previously was in a hiking outfit, is now in a hanbok, traditional Korean dress. And so she took us up onto the platform and reenacted that with songs and music and so forth.
Great.
The next day, we went out to what used to be a distant island off the coast, but we got there by way of a new bridge and tunnel system. And because it was an island, it was the site of a prison camp during the Korean War, where North Korean and Chinese prisoners were kept. And it was almost not quite shocking, but it was a moving experience because they didn't hold anything back. They recreated, what it was like, the difficulties on both sides, and so it was very instructive. The next one after that is a change of pace. They took us out and put us on a boat, and we went out to this beautiful Camellia Island. And of course, the next picture is of azaleas, not camellias. A fully landscaped island, no cars. You went out by boat and you walked the whole thing. And it was also a sculpture garden. So every place you went, there were all different styles of sculptures and benches and nooks where you could come and sit down if you wanted to and rest and have a cold drink. And speaking of drinks, at the end of that day, coming back to our base, we stopped at this Good Day Museum. And what it is, it's a manufacturing plant for soju, Korea's national drink. And so it's just like being in a Coca-Cola bottling plant and so forth. But what's different about it is that it's also the International Liquor Museum. And so they had, just like a regular museum, they had corridors and corridors of things to drink from all different countries all
No free
around the
samples,
world.
though.
No free samples.
Well, we had free samples of the soju, not the other ones, yeah. And they call it the Good Day Museum because in that part of Korea, one of the ways they say cheers is choende, choende, which sounds kind of like good day and kind of means, oh, happy day. And so that's why they named it that way. So, let's see, I don't know, I think you're,
I knew you might be running out of time.
because you can see the clock and I can't. So from there, okay, we went over to Busan, Korea's second biggest city. And I guess we'll jump to the first one, which has kind of an overview and this so on. And just I wanted to get one picture of these towering apartment buildings in Busan. I counted the stories in the white buildings in the foreground, and there were 30 stories.
Wow.
So the ones to the left there are probably 60 stories, and the ones in the background are probably got to be 90 or 100 stories. They are amazing builders. After that, to go back to the older traditions, we went to a Buddhist temple called Tongdosa, where we've been before, and I love it. It's on a very human scale. It's very beautiful. But coincidentally, when we were there, there were people with cameras and microphones, and they were doing a documentary on Rotary
Oh, wow.
in Korea. So they wanted to interview me. So there's a picture of
got
me
interviewed
being
there, huh?
Interview
interviewed.
picture.
We'll have to get some of the footage of that
Because
then.
they wanted to get some of these, the international flavor.
Well, real quick question because we're kind of running short on time here.
Okay.
The trip to Korea, just a brief moment. Tell us what that was like. You've got 30 seconds there. Tell us what Korea was like for you. 30 seconds.
I love it. I could live there. I think it's a wonderful, orderly country, warm people. The hospitality is just amazing. It's a very beautiful country. It's very industrial. It's also a very beautiful country. And I think in terms of the convention, for a large city convention, it was one of the best of all the 15 that we've attended.
Great. Well, thank you both very
That's
much
great.
for your time. One outstanding trip. That's a lot of days and a lot of photos, but thank you for sharing that. And with that, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Rotary all around the world has some pretty fascinating areas, and Rotarians doing a lot of good things. With that, thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next time.